Hi all, let's look at another amazing game from the Ultimate Blitz challenge, recently just been played. So E4, Kasparov was playing against Caruana and kicked off with E4, and we go into the Vienna game, Nc3. Now Nc6, this actually discourages F4. Nc6 means F4 is not too good, but Kasparov here uses instead bishop C4, and this is a very nice idea, keeping a grip on D5, not committing yet to F4. Black now plays knight F6, and now D3, and we see bishop C5. Potentially this is a very annoying solid setup by black. We see F4 here. Now after D6, knight F3, and Caruana takes on F4. There's some very interesting lines here. If black doesn't take, maybe for white's castle, if black just castled, believe it or not, it seems one of the main moves is knight A4, just to try and get rid of this bishop, and then some extra options after that. It can sharpen up quite considerably though. So anyway, E takes F4 was played, bishop takes F4. So white enjoys potentially some pressure on this F file. And you'll note with this bishop here, this pin could be more dangerous than usual. A pin potentially with bishop G5. In fact, Kasparov seizes on that pin immediately here, bishop G5 in this position. Caruana plays H6, bishop drops back. Black really doesn't want to play G5, that would just be absolutely looking ghastly weaknesses. We see bishop E6, and now the bishop just drops back, not wanting to give black any dynamic play. But bishop E6 taking, that will give the rook and the F file some purpose for black. White keeps a hold on the D5 square here against D5. Black now plays knight D4, and yeah, it seems white's inconvenienced. He can't castle because he'd be running in straight into this killer discovered check. But a very interesting move, just using that trump card independent of castling with the move rook F1. So now threatening things on F6 potentially. Okay, very interesting position indeed. We see now knight takes F3, and the queen takes here with a lot of pressure on F6. Black tries to parry that with bishop D4, but it seems as though the opening for black has gone significantly wrong. This doesn't look like a mainline approach from black. So here, in fact, white's got just a very, very good position, especially after this bishop move. We see knight E2 here, and black's in great difficulty. If the bishop retreats, that's kind of admitting this was all a waste of time, and white has things like knight F4 going into G5 potentially. It just looks very, very nasty stuff there. This position with the F file is looking far too dangerous. So we see a greedy looking bishop takes B2, but now after rook B1, yeah, black is technically lost here. If the bishop drops back to E5, the bishop actually went to A3, but if the bishop drops back to E5, then there's D4, and if takes, then we just trap the bishop. I mean, it's just an incredibly bad position here. We see bishop A3, and there is an opportunity just to win this bishop here with bishop takes E6. This wasn't actually used, and D4. Yeah, this is not looking too clever, with queen takes A3 there coming up. So anyway, but there's another good option here, knight F4, just ideas like knight H5. And it seems though, is this a fatal mistake because of the check? Now the bishop not only has not been taken, it's pushing the king in what seems to be an awkward square. It goes actually to E2, allowing what seems to be quite dangerous bishop G4. But thankfully white has, for Kasparov, white has a very good sequence here. He plays here queen takes G4 because he's got that pin on the knight. After knight takes g4, he takes back the queen. And it's just very difficult here. Black plays here rook a takes d8, keeping hold of the f7 pawn. If rook f takes d8, in this position, if rook takes, if the rook here takes, then we have things like bishop takes f7, and rook takes b4 is good for white. Simply that is good for white. It's very good for white. So anyway, so after taking on d8, Caruana takes with the a rook, but a very, very good move here, just winning material basically. Can you see what white can do? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video here, so Kasparov to play, excellent move here is played. Okay, I hope you've guessed it. Knight g6, yeah, hitting the rook. If it goes to e8, then we've got bishop takes f7, winning the exchange anyway. So this is actually basically winning the exchange. You know, if rook e8, we just take on f7. So this is very difficult to do something now. We have bishop c5, just losing the exchange. And yeah, it's a matter of consolidation. The knight's kicked back. It can't really enter here. It's just going to be trapped, basically, potentially. It looks to be just, you don't want to really do that. It just goes back, and now c3, so d4 coming up potentially. Bishop drops back. Rook f5, keeping a hold on d5 even more, preparing to double rooks. And the rooks do double. And now there's also, in response to d5, there's e5, which would be good for the doubled rooks here on f7. c6, the king steps out of the way, so d5, e5 for sure. So rook e7. But now g4, yeah, white's going to be chipping away on this f-file now, using this f-file pressure. Black does play d5 here, because he's at least safeguarded against g5. And also the f7 pawn is not so bad here. So we have e takes d5. But black is losing this pawn now. Bishop takes d5. It does seem like a desperate measure, but it's in an exchange down position. What can black do, really? So is the exchange down here. Bishop just drops back. Kasparov keen to swap off a pair of rooks. Okay, protects the pawn here. Doubling rooks. There was rook e7 there on the card. At least the infiltration point is stopped for a moment. Rook f1. d4, yeah, the center is creeping forward here, and the king is coming to the center. The king is a strong piece, as Steinitz used to say. Bishop g3. Yeah, black is not doing anything too constructive at the moment, and now white is trying to increase the mobility of his central pawns with this move. So if takes, we've got two very mobile connected passed pawns. Very interesting move. a5. Very strong positioning. It's not taken. Knight g5. We have a takes. Now bishop c4 holding that pawn. It's a fixed target now on the b file to be attacked, and it is now. Humbly defended. Now rook b5, putting the pressure, putting the brakes on the pawn, and if I can just double rooks, b6 will be very weak. For the moment here, rook e8. Giving up the h3 pawn. Yes, the king comes back. Check. Now rook here defending. We have knight h7, king f3, bishop drops back, king comes over to the queen side. Rook a4. Hitting the rook moves. But yeah, Kasparov has given up his kingside pawns, but his center pawns are mobile now. Wanting exchange of rooks. And this is a very fine diagonal for the bishop defensively to stop black's h-pawn, whilst at the same time supporting his own passed pawns. So strong technique is being shown here. the king coming to support the d pawn. c5, yeah, white's c pawn is pretty powerful here. c6. We have this bishop d6 which drops f7, that is taken here. And now c7 winning that bishop. It's hopeless to try and stop the pawn. Knight e7 will just take. So a rook up now. It's just a matter of stopping black's pawns, and the bishop is very well placed to do so. But temporarily does move to e6 here. The thing is, it can always return if needed to the d5 square if this pawn moves forward. Knight g6. Pinning the knight. And yeah, maybe the knight was wanting to stop with knight f4, but this idea of knight f4 is extinguished. Kasparov is willing actually to give up his rook if needed. He's got a nice blockade. He gives up his rook. And this is a winning blockade of these pawns. The pawns are not going anywhere. And white can just shepherd the d pawn here. Caruana resigns. Just to show this. If takes, we can just keep a blockade and start moving this pawn. Herd the pawn forward. Black's pawns are really just going nowhere. In the meantime, it's just too slow for black to do anything. So a very nice game in the Vienna game from Kasparov. Very nice idea, that knight g6 in particular, winning the exchange. So yeah, it shows the Vienna's actually a dangerous weapon in blitz chess. And Kasparov varying with bishop c4, not going in with the inferior f4. That is an excellent line, it seems, the bishop c4 line against the knight c6, the early knight c6. Okay, I hope you got something from it. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.